Joining me this morning is PIX 11 political reporter Henry Rossoff, Katie Honan from the city, and Jeff Coltin from City and State New York. Friends, thank you all for being here today.
Good morning.
All right, let's start off talking about Rikers Island. Jumaane Williams and his fellow leaders, they noted improvements, and then just 2 days later, another inmate died. So, Jeff, what will it take to finally get things under control on Rikers?
I wish anybody could answer that question. It's just been years and years of frustration. And as Mayor Adams astutely noted this week, the population of Rikers has been going up. Obviously, that's a political choice in some way. They're keeping more people in jail despite these changes to bail laws. But it does really put into question whether Rikers Island is still on a timeline to close by 2027, as the city was hoping to see.
Katie, I know you've covered this timeline, this plan to move to borough-based jails. Do you think it'll still happen, especially after what we heard from the mayor this past week?
Well, the mayor has said he's still committed to that. He said he's still committed to that plan as it is happening. I think there are, people have concerns. There are those who are opposed to this jail plan, and they say it doesn't get to the root issue of, what it was reported this week, that an inmate committed suicide and correction officers, allegedly, according to this reporting, allowed the person to bleed out before getting medical help. So what critics of the plan, some critics of the plan say is, this doesn't address the larger issue of what's going on on Rikers Island. Just spreading it around won't improve things. So we'll see how that goes. There's a couple more years in the timeline, but we'll see what happens.
Henry, we are now in general election season. I want to talk about New York 10. Dan Goldman, he won the Democratic primary in November. Could we possibly see him face a challenge from someone other than just the Republican?
It's certainly on the table whether or not Assemblywoman Yulene New, who came very close and has the support of many progressives in the Working Families Party, hops in. Jeff actually had some excellent reporting this week that decision is perhaps not as impending as we all thought. Discussions are still underway, so I'll toss it over to him, if you will. Jeff, what do you know?
Very little on this, too. Look, I think the longer we wait, maybe the less likely it is that Yulene New decides to do this third-party run, which is a very long shot. It's very hard to beat somebody running on the Democratic line in a general election in a district like this in New York City. So it's an interesting case, but I do feel like it's probably less likely to happen the longer we wait.
And midterms, they seem to be on President Biden's mind when he addressed the nation earlier this week, talking about the fate of democracy. So is Biden putting that on the ballot as Democrats really fight to keep their majority? Henry, I'll ask you this one again.
Yeah, well, you're starting to see it tick up in polling that voters actually do care about the state of democracy. I think nearly 70% of independents, Democrats, and Republicans, according to some recent reputable polling, really say they care about this and feel that it's under threat. It's starting to be up there with issues like abortion and inflation and crime. So from a purely political calculation standpoint, President Biden getting after this seems astute. But from a basic perspective, we're going to be voting on candidates during this midterm, both at the local and federal level, that will have something to say and administer the next presidential election. And as you know, we may be looking at a Trump-Biden rematch, with President Trump continuing to throw some unfounded claims about fraud against the wall. And then these local officials we're voting on will have to kind of weed through all that. So, yes, this is very important.
So, yeah, Katie, what do you think is driving people to vote this time around? Voter turnout, well, do you think it'll be as high as 2 years ago? And what are those issues that are really driving folks to the polls?
It's always hard to predict the exact turnout, but what you do see is we saw it in this August primary, speaking to people, and these were very specific races, but people were really coming out to vote for a movement or vote for ideas and not necessarily just about a candidate. And I think we may see another version of that when it comes to midterms around the country. Like you noted, what people are the major and the bigger issues that people are concerned with, whether it's abortion access and abortion rights, whether it's more economic concerns like inflation, or whether it's just this broader kind of look at what is the future of the United States going to look like with over-politicized and fringe groups, especially on the right, going to do to the country.
All right, so any early predictions for the House and Senate? Where are things trending?
For who? For me? I'll go first.
I'll throw out for all three of you.
Well, I'll note that the Cook political report actually moved, which is reputable sort of rating of this sort of thing, moved the Senate and House into toss-up range, whereas they thought it would be a Republican landslide. So I'll note that as an indication that we're moving into anything could happen range as opposed to Republicans dominating.
Yeah, and this week, of course, marked 1 year since Hurricane Ida. Hundreds of families that are still not home. Governor Murphy is promising more funds, but why is this taking so long? Also, recovery issues in Queens. What's the holdup, Katie?
There are concerns. The comptroller last month denied every single claim of homeowners looking for claims, blaming the city for some of these damages. These are people in communities that have long had issues with the city sewers and backups. There's issues with, people who haven't been able to access FEMA money. There was a fund for undocumented residents from the state, but it actually did not have as much demand as they anticipated. So you have people still living in hotels, still not home, tenants of basement apartments that are still uninhabitable, and we're still in the middle of hurricane season. So, of course, the big fear is always, is this going to happen again?
All right, Katie, thank you so much. Jeff, Henry as well. We'll be right back.